Hey, welcome to the coaches meeting where we always start promptly 3 minutes late. That's the coach. I'm Grant Cohn, and it's a Monday night game. Feels like almost like a mini bye week. So we're still kind of lingering and stewing on that loss to the Browns, which was kind of embarrassing. I mean, the Niners beat themselves pretty well. I mean, they knocked themselves out.
Yeah.
So now we gotta deal with the fallout of how unprepared and below their standard they were. Starting with the quarterback. I mean, he took a lot of criticism. It's a guy who's never lost a regular season game. And I feel like, I don't know, there were a lot of people defending him, a lot of people criticizing him. Just how did you sense the tone of the Brock Purdy criticism? Do you feel like people were like gleeful that he finally lost a game?
No.
And didn't play well?
No. I don't think that people were happy that Brock performed poorly or that he had a bad game. I think that people were happy that it kind of balanced the narrative. There seems to be a visceral push to crown Brock what he as like a top 10 quarterback, when I mean, if you truly believe that's what he is, then you should have the courage to wait for it to materialize in front of us. And it really is a disservice to Brock when people make him a target, when they push things on him that he quite frankly hasn't even shown yet, and he's just showing early signs of. So when Brock has a good game, like a phenomenal game, like the Cowboys game, he was really good, or week 1, he was very good. When he has those games and then you're asked, oh, well, did Brock have a phenomenal day? And you say, nah, man, this is a good day, man. You stacked this game and let's just see what we could do. That sounds like you're hating. It sounds like you're not giving him any credit after he has a bad game. But after he has a game like this, and somebody asks, well, what do you think of Brock? And you come off with, well, hey, man, it's one game. You know what I'm saying? It is what it is. It happened within 4 quarters, but it's just stacking days. Let's see what we can do with next week. It doesn't sound like hating then. It doesn't sound like you're coming off against the kid. So what I'm more galvanized around is having more of a balanced approach in Brock's maturation process, because I feel like we'll weed out a lot of dishonest brokers, right? If you want Brock to be a franchise quarterback and you want him here for the future, then you're willing to see him go through his lumps, right? Because you want your guy to be tested. But if you can't,
and you know the test is coming. Sorry.
And you thank you. And there you go. You know that this is the NFL. Those tests are coming. But if you can't stomach him struggling, if you can't stomach just hearing criticism about what's simply being done right in front of you, then you have to check yourself and understand that it was never about Brock to begin with. You just want a perfect vessel to live vicariously through. So there's 2 sides of this.
And this is why I felt I wasn't gleeful about his performance. I wasn't gleeful that the Niners lost, but I appreciated the loss because I feel like we finally learned a lot about Brock Purdy in particular, because we know he's good. And this loss doesn't change that. He's a good quarterback. But at the same time, he hadn't really faced adversity yet. He lost the NFC Championship game, but him and the whole team can say that he would have won if he played the whole time. Like he played the whole game in this game and he lost to the Browns. And in the process, I mean, we're not going to overreact to it because it's one loss and he's had a lot of wins, but it's like we finally learn his strengths and weaknesses. Like it's a coverage thing. If you play zone coverage against Brock and sort of expect him to not execute, you're playing yourself. He executes like the best vets in the league, and he'll take what you give him. He won't force it down the field. It's the wrong approach. And then this week, the Vikings, what they do is they blitz a lot. If you try to do that to Brock Purdy, he's going to beat you. He's going to find it. He's going to. But if you can do what the Browns did, and not a lot of teams can, all of a sudden, Brock's, I don't know what you want to call it, limitations or weaknesses,
I don't even
come to the forefront.
Yeah, like I don't even see it as like weaknesses. I see it as we don't know what we have yet, right? We haven't had a full season with Brock, so being able to see,
he just looked human. He just looked human against the Browns, as opposed to the other times where he looked like he was freaking Harry Potter.
Exactly. Yeah. So
Peter Pan.
Yeah, like my my narrative around Brock is that I'm not looking for anything that he's weak at. We already know what we got coming out the gate. If somebody says that, oh man, Brock can't throw this throw. Well, yeah, we already knew that his arm strength is going to be something that's going to be left to be desired. Now, how he matriculates around that is what makes him great, right? We knew that Tom Brady couldn't run. We knew he wasn't athletic. But what made him great is what he turned into it, right? Tom Brady's athleticism superseded him being able to run up and down the field. But really, his athleticism was used on pocket awareness, being almost unsackable, being able to know how to get rid of the ball and to climb up in the pocket and to keep the sticks alive. Those are the things that somebody with Brock's skill set is going to have to be able to hone as he moves forward. So it's not about looking at what he can't do. We already know some of the things that he can't do. We're just trying to see how are you going to fashion what you can do in this arena. And that's what we were looking for, right? And that's what he's growing into. He needs reps. Even Brock needs reps. He has not played enough football for him to be able to know what to do in every situation. So, yeah, he got caught with his pants down because we had a team where Jim Swartz has this offense's number. Facts. It's by the numbers. And with losing two weapons in the inclement weather game on the road against a number one defense, he already had the card stacked against him before he even took the first snap, right?
Right.
So what we want to be able to understand is that there's two sides of following Brock. And there is the sensationalized mob who is either galvanized to on his unquestioned success or his impenetrable doom, his impending doom. Or there's people who understand football and its construct and see, hey man, there's tests that are going to be coming down the road anyway for this kid. There's no reason to argue about it incessantly every day. So I see both sides. There's the side that they want to muck rake and grab their pitchforks and make this a huge uh ballyhoo, if you
Yeah.
will. But there is a balanced side to this that is going to be able to that understands that whether we like it or not, the truth is going to bear out anyway.
I don't think anyone takes pleasure in watching Brock Purdy struggle. I think everyone is rooting for
No.
Brock Purdy and understands that like this is a guy who deserves to get a big payday, and we're all rooting for him to keep playing well. I just feel like what we learned was when you given what happened against the Browns, take the Browns out of it. When you combine Purdy's processing, elite processing and elite preparation with Kyle Shanahan's scheme and pre-snap motion and the 5 eligible receivers that Purdy has to work with, and defense is mostly playing zone, like it makes sense that Brock Purdy is putting up crazy numbers.
Right.
The combination of, and he's part of it. He is absolutely part of his processing and preparation is on another level. He's like a 35-year-old football savant. But he also has a lot of benefits. And when he goes against a defense like Cleveland that can kind of match those eligible receivers and Kyle's scheme, like Jim Schwartz is every bit the match for Kyle Shanahan. And like the players in Cleveland, every bit the match for the players in San Francisco, finally had a team that could match up and challenge them man to man. And Brock didn't look like the MVP of the league. And I'm not saying that that's the real Brock Purdy, but that's his shadow, the shadow Brock.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I do know that nobody gets away with the league. There's going to be a book on you. Whether or not people know how to read it correctly or not is up to them, right?
Right.
Well, what does that mean? Everybody's not going to be able to replicate what the Browns did to us last week. They're just not, right?
Including the Vikings this week.
Including the Vikings, right? And there's going to be teams, including the Vikings, who don't even do what the Browns do on defense in order to make that a big game. Or a hard game for us offensively. So this is just honestly like a blip on the map compared to everything that Brock has done, right?
Yep.
It's just that it was just jarring to see it just kind of like overnight. You thought you would see kind of like tendencies that slip or ways that we could possibly lose games, but you didn't expect it. You didn't expect to just see the rock bottom floor in one game, right?
No.
So like but we did exactly.
We did.
So that's the thing that is a little alarming to me is that it's not necessarily that Brock had a bad game, but It was the fact that it would happen so quick and just literally overnight. As far as the game before, he had a way better game. So
Yeah.
for me, this is just more time on task and proof of concept to see where Brock is going to be. That's all, right? We got rid of tons of assets to be able to keep him for him to be the franchise guy. So, I mean, if he's a rental, then what are we talking about?
That's what I want to go to before we move on. To me, like, you watch a game like that and you realize, like, okay, you finally meet your match in terms of supporting cast, your team against theirs, and like you look like that. It makes me feel like you can't just put Brock Purdy on any team and he's going to ball out. You know, if you put him on the Saints, I don't know how good he would look. And then you can't just give him like any contract. I'm looking at that. I'm thinking, is this guy worth $40 million a year? Like, if you start taking away the supporting cast because he's a franchise quarterback making franchise quarterback money, like, what's that going to look like? But that's all issues for down the line. I just feel like the Eagles are there right now, right? Jalen Hurts had this incredible season last year. They made him the highest paid player in the league, and now look at him.
They're stuck with him.
They're stuck with him, and he's not that great. And I think people could have seen it coming. Like, man, he wasn't making any money. He was new. He was on the best team. Like, wait for it. Wait till the book is out on him and he's actually making real money. Like, that's kind of the things that are going through my mind when I watch Purdy. What's happening to Hurts right now in his fourth year in the league.
Yeah, in Philly, they were definitely prisoners of the moment. You know, they really wanted to right some wrongs. They themselves got rid of a high pick that scratched everybody's head in Carson Wentz. And and I feel as though that there was a little bit of impatience from the front office over there of saying that, dude, we not only is Jalen enough, but we got to be able to kind of like get rid of the stench of what we did with Carson Wentz. Like, we got to be able to wrap our arms around this guy. We can't be seen being wishy-washy about this kid, especially if he shows us that we're ready to win with the window that we have, right? And that's kind of what the Eagles did. That team was ready before Jalen Hurts got there. So as soon as Jalen Hurts came in and kind of solidified, added with a couple of pieces, it just seemed as though, hey, let's kind of just make him our guy. Like, ready, let's just do it. But now that they didn't handle business against Kansas City with the Super Bowl, they're really stuck with Jalen Hurts now, right? And then now you're kind of stuck with making sure that you keep an offense that not only is good enough and viable against the league, but you got to keep an offense that's good enough for Jalen Hurts to be like a weapon, right? You can't just go get bargain guys anymore. You got to go get a Julio Jones. You got to get AJ Brown. You got to get somebody that can actually literally go up and get the ball. So Jalen Hurts is surrounded and he's loaded with athletes. But you mean to tell me that if they didn't have a veteran over there, they wouldn't be feeling a lot better about their situation? So the same thing applies here, where I'm not too sure that our coaching staff is really wrapped around Brock being the guy. Right. And we'll see, because last week was the first developmental game where Brock had showed his age. He showed his experience. How much more can this? I mean, we're going to talk about it, but do they have the stomach to see this kid through?
Yeah, we're going to get there. Okay. Elite Archer 23 says, yes, people are praying for Brock's demise with you being at the top of the list. People are so sensitive. I'm not praying for Brock's demise. Why would I? I mean, like, what did he do to me, first of all? Second of all, like, the man is like at the bottom of the food chain in terms of like financial pecking order on his own team. I think everyone feels like he's deserved his contract extension, or he should have had his contract renegotiated a long time ago, but there's like a stupid rule in the CBA that needs to be changed. I'm on Brock's side. I'm just not crowning him an elite quarterback like Philly did with Jalen Hurts too soon. And now look at him now. I'm just trying to remain professionally distanced.
Every quarterback that's won a Super Bowl wasn't the guy, right? So Brock doesn't have to be the guy for us to win the Super Bowl. However, if we're going to keep him on our team as a franchise quarterback, then he deserves the grace to grow. He does. Nobody's preying on Brock's demise, but he ain't going to be given anything either.
Manny PSF 95 says beat writers always ask the team questions that lead to specific answers after a loss. Shanahan isn't going to say, wait, you're right. We would have won if we used McCaffrey less, even if it's true. True. But you still got to ask him the question and see what he says and how he says it and his demeanor. Sonny says, Grant, thoughts on Jack Hammer? Gave my thoughts on Jack Hammer on Twitter. I don't want to get into it. That's his life, and I don't want to talk about it. Sorry, Sonny. Rome gut level says, good or bad, it's always more about Kyle than Brock.
You know the answer to that, Rome. You're trying to lead us into it.
Okay,
You know
let's talk
the
about it
answer
right
to
now.
that.
How long is Brock Purdy's leash? The reason I ask is he loses his first game 2 days before Shannon Sharp goes on that whole thing about how he's not an elite quarterback, and this is all a reflection of Kyle Shanahan. And then Brock Purdy sort of lends credence to that. You know? And we know how Kyle Shanahan is, man. He soured on Jimmy quick. He soured on Trey quick. If he really felt that he was the main reason that Brock Purdy was having success, if Brock Purdy stops having success for just a little period of time, is it possible that Kyle Shanahan, being Kyle Shanahan, won't stick it out through thick and thin, but he'll pivot to the next quarterback? The quarterback he really, really likes is waiting in the wings, Sam Darnold.
Well, the genesis of Sam Darnold is interesting, right? He was coveted. We didn't just find him on the side of the road. So that is something to pay attention to. It doesn't mean everything, but it does mean something. As far as Brock's leash is concerned, you have to ask yourself, and this is karma, and I love it. I really do. Because we're no better than the next team. When we had Jimmy, the question with Jimmy was, are we going to stand behind Jimmy in order for us to try to get a Super Bowl? And that answer was yes. We stood behind Jimmy, right? Until Kyle was out on Jimmy before any of us knew. And he was actively trying to get another quarterback for years.
Before any of us knew. Can we stick there for a second? I feel like a lot of people thought Kyle loved Jimmy for a long time.
He was
and it was hard to realize that Kyle felt he was propping up Jimmy and that he was the reason for Jimmy's success. He didn't come out and say it, but I think that was clearly how he felt, and he was right. And my question is, does he feel that way about Brock Purdy too? He didn't discover Brock Purdy. Brian Greasy did, and Steve Slowick. So I'm curious, in a private moment, how much does Kyle attribute to Brock, and how much does he attribute to himself?
I'd say 70-30. I'd say 70-30. Yeah, 70 himself, 30 Brock. I mean, he didn't have anything to do with getting Jimmy. That was John in the front office, right? He didn't have anything to do with getting Brock. That was Steve Slowick and Brian Greasy. The only person that Kyle actually has like a direct hand in making sure that the quarterback is in the building right now is Sam Darnold. I feel like, Kyle was out on Jimmy before any of us knew for years. Kyle was out on Trey in reports from people inside the building, literally less than a year after he was in the building. Kyle was out on Trey so before any of us knew. So I pretty much say that when Kyle is out on Brock, none of us are going to know. It's going to be way sooner than we think. And we're going to start see it matriculate on the field. So to be direct without giving you like the scenic route answer, I give Brock 2 more bad games and then he's getting pulled.
Yeah, like Kyle doesn't want to look crazy. He doesn't want to go against the grain and make himself look irrational. But I think he's as skeptical of Brock as anyone. And that's hard for Niner fans to realize. Like I was talking about Jimmy for like since they got him. I'm like, I don't know if he's really an elite quarterback. And I feel like Kyle was right there with me. And it took people years to realize that Kyle is that skeptical. He's almost, he's cynical, and quite, aware of the effect he has on his quarterbacks. Put it that way.
Yeah.
So why does he feel different about Brock? Like real quick, yesterday when asked about Brock and how much he trusts him, Kyle immediately was like, "Yeah, I trusted Jimmy too. It's just he kind of just couldn't stay healthy." Like, how different does he look at them?
Yeah, I mean, he'll gaslight. I feel like Kyle will immediately, especially, I feel like Kyle would immediately gaslight the situation and put it on Brock where he's not healthy enough, he's too young, he's not developed enough. But it's like, yeah, but that's what we had when we had Trey. Like we still like Brock takes the same track as Trey. Trey's gone. So now Brock needs the reps. Now Brock needs to be on the field by hook or crook. You don't make him better by pulling him. And if you're pulling him, then you're really here to say that you just care about the Super Bowl and you never cared about the quarterback to begin with.
Yeah.
That's just what it is. So, you know, I just Kyle put out a very interesting article years ago, and somebody asked him about what is like some of the best things that you learned from your dad with coaching. And the number one thing Kyle said, the very first thing he said was, I learned how not to get fired.
I
Like
remember that. Yeah. That
I
is the number one job.
that's the number one job. Like,
Yeah.
don't get fired. Right. So I feel like if it ever came between Brock and Kyle's job security, or Brock and
That's
Kyle
that.
pushing forward, that's that. Brock's
That's
gone.
that.
So and you know what? And there's fans who are really sensationalized by Brock that probably will never believe that. They won't believe how Kyle really feels about Brock. So, you know,
And let's
it
step
is
back
what it
for a
is.
second. He didn't want, I don't say he didn't want Brock, but he didn't discover Brock. Brock is not his template for an ideal quarterback. He can work with Brock. They're having a ton of success, but he had a ton of success with Jimmy too. From Kyle's perspective, he can have a ton of success with a lot of quarterbacks. Did he bring in the next Brock this year? Did he find like this is my new platonic ideal? No. He could have drafted a guy late, day 3, like Brock, experienced, smaller, not as physically gifted, and said, this works for me. It's not what he did. He went out and got another player who's about 6'3", 6'4", who was the number 3 pick in the draft, who's a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger, a little bit more physically gifted. It's like he did a redo on the Trey Lance pick. All right, Trey Lance didn't work, but I'm going to get this guy with a bunch of physical tools and see what because if I can have this success with Brock Purdy, if I can have this success with Jimmy Garoppolo, imagine what I could do with a quarterback who is really, really gifted. Now, that may not be Sam Darnold, but that's what they're trying to do. Yeah.
I agree with you. And it's on wax. I feel like we're forgetting about all of this. It all plays. We offered a first round pick for Sam.
That's right.
The Jets just turned us down.
Mm-hmm.
That was on Kyle. That happened. We offered a first round pick for Sam Darnold. So if you think Kyle can't let go of players like Kirk Cousins, just imagine how he probably feels about Sam. I'm telling you, man, I want to be able to get a real quarterback, man. And we ain't gonna find out what Brock is by benching him if he struggles. We gotta play him. We gotta play him. So I don't want the fans to get gaslit into this quest for 6, because if we bench Brock, how in the world can you bench the kid and he's not hurt, right? Let's say now if he's hurt, you got to sit him down to protect him, right? You got to preserve his career. But if he's struggling, how the hell do you bench him and then put on Sam and then lie and act like you're not going to do everything to keep Sam, because Sam is a rental. Sam is only here for a year. He's a free agent next year. So they're not if you think they hung on to Brock for 7 games, man, if they win with Sam Darnold is our new quarterback. I'm telling you. They'll do it.
And he'll get a lot of money. But I'm just saying, if teams copy the Browns man coverage blueprint and it's effective against Brock and he comes back down to earth, Kyle's not sentimental, man. He's not tied to Brock. He's not sentimental. So look, maybe this is nothing. Maybe this is a blip. Maybe this is just the prelude to the Hall of Fame career by Brock Purdy. But if it's not, and this is the prelude to him coming back down to earth because finally teams have figured out the one thing that he doesn't shred apart, I'm telling you, man, Kyle Shanahan is itching to do something that you can't believe.
Yeah. So I mean, I could see if it was one game, but we'll see. We'll see next week if it was one game. He should bounce back. It's the Vikings. Yeah,
he should bounce back. They're gonna blitz him. It should look a lot like the game against the Giants. Got you. Manny PSF says, just feels like the beat is trying to help the coach realize something he hasn't thought of, like they're trying to help the team. Guess I read it wrong. I see what you mean. Like, just ask a question. Don't show the coach you're on the side. Talking Head says, don't know about Kyle Shanahan, but I'm not loyal to Brock Purdy. Was it to Trey? Wasn't to Jimmy Garoppolo? Win a trophy, consistently be a top guy for years. That's what you need. Thank you, Talking Head. AK Niner says, as long as Brock is making minimum salary, Brock's leash is long. Shanahan wants a cheap quarterback. Darnold's cheap.
Yeah.
Rome Gut Level says, if Kyle pulls Brock for Sam, do fans turn on Kyle?
That's a very good question. Rome has been asking a lot of
Yeah.
like
I think that could be the
rhetorical
thing giving.
questions.
I think that's what gives Brock his leash. The fact that fans love him.
Yeah,
Love him.
that's his
But I mean,
leash.
Fans love Jimmy too. And I think that was Kyle was always caught in between there. Like, I'd like to make the switch, but people won't let me.
I got one for you, but it's a little different. The Jimmy Kyle was not strapped by the fans so much as he was by the locker room. The locker room loved Jimmy. You know what I'm
True.
saying? So it wasn't necessarily Jimmy had fans, big fans, but really what hurt is that they struggled with CJ Beathard and Nick
Right.
Mullins, and
Right.
Jimmy was the first thing that they saw where it was like, Kyle, I know you're an offensive genius, but F
But
that.
yeah.
We're keeping Jimmy. He's the only thing that's close to getting us to like requisite success. And I feel the same way about I feel like they say feel the same way about Brock. Like Trey came in young, inexperienced, not ready, not being coached up or
They like
developed. And
Darnold though.
then, yeah, and they like Darnold.
They like Darnold. That's what I'm
Dog,
saying.
you
That's what I'm
know we
saying.
see it, bro. You
That's what I'm
don't put
saying.
no third string. You don't bring a third string quarterback
McCaffrey
to
likes
do.
Darnold.
You don't
Kittle
bring the
likes
third
Darnold.
string quarterback
Yeah.
to like courtside seats, man. I'm
Mm-mm,
telling you,
mm-mm.
it's
Ethan
not
M
what you
says, "What do
do.
you think of what do you think of the Cleveland film? Brock didn't play that bad given the circumstances, overcame team mistakes, and still was in a spot to win."
I don't
I
think
gave him a
that's
D
true.
plus. I gave him a D
Yeah,
plus. Sorry.
yeah,
Can you see them drafting another quarterback stacked class? I think they should. I think they
yeah.
should have done it this year. Why not? When you hit on Brock and you have some sort of a blueprint there. Let's change the
Mm-hmm.
subject away from Brock. This Niner team has been together for a while and they have a real personality. They're a really, really good team, but they're not champions yet.
Mm-hmm.
And they may be champions soon or not. But what they are is a team that talks a lot.
Yeah,
And they get in beefs. They get in beefs with the Cowboys, the Eagles, players on teams. And it's like, it spills into social media. It's a lot of chirping on this 49ers team that hasn't won a Super Bowl yet. Is it no big deal? Is it just modern day sports? Is it a bad look? Is it something that's sort of indicative of a bigger issue with the sort of fabric of the identity of their team? What do you think?
it is something. I personally don't like it. It's classless.
Right.
I do understand like tradition, like in the flow of the game, like when you in the action, shit happens, right? There's stuff that we as fans are just never going to hear or see. I get that, but using like a fan medium to to like have conversations back and forth on Twitter, it's just not the move. You know what I'm saying? Like, not for anything. Like Debo's going back and forth. My man, you was hurt. You didn't even play the game. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? You didn't even play the game.
Yeah.
Uh
Good point.
George, yeah, George with the shirt. It's kind of like
That's when it
I
started.
yeah, I get it. You guys are giving an ode to tradition. I understand that, but it's just too much. It's like I feel like we
It's
always get caught.
unnecessary.
We get caught with our hand in the cookie jar. Like even before the game, like just
Yeah.
no respect. We on the road going against the number one defense, and we hopping around the field. And there's speculation about Nick Bosa's quotes that started the whole thing against Deshaun Watson. It's kind of like, what type of time are we on? Like, how focused are we on trying to win games? So I understand. This is the thing.
What was that about Nick Bosa and what? Huh?
There was quotes that Nick Bosa made some like political comments towards Deshaun Watson on the field, and that's what sparked the melee between
Oh,
everybody.
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So uh
Wow.
really, like, you look at going back and forth and chirping all over Instagram, I mean Twitter, um it's just classless. We could do better. We could do better as far as understanding where we are. Now, I will say we are in fear of moving like we got like we got the answers to the test. I do feel like they understand that we got to start fast, because what hurts us is these lost games in the beginning of the season that threaten us when we are trying to move forward to get the number one seed in the playoffs. So I do see that they're trying to like handle certain things, but you could just kind of tell by some of the things that were said, like Kyle telling players don't expect a lot of stats because we're playing against a team that really is going to bring it to this week. Like,
Mhm.
for me, from a coaching perspective, like, saying that to your guys is almost indicative of saying during camp, when you do, I mean, during the game, when you do think you guys can beat somebody's ass, like, yo, these guys suck, we should be able to kill them. And like, that's not good either. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like, letting them
Yeah.
know, like, hey, this one's going to be a tough one. Dude, everyone's going to be a tough one. Like,
Yeah, and forget about them. It's all about your standard, right? We're going to play
yeah.
up to our standard. We're not going to come out here and excuse ourselves for being a little bit beneath it, below it.
Yeah, and that kind of, like, that was eye opening when it was relayed that Kyle let the commentators know, like, yo, I let them know that this week is going to be like a really tough week. And it's like, well, what do you say to the guys when you say, oh, well, this week isn't going to be tough? And then you get out there and then they show you something that you haven't seen. And then as fans, we're sitting back wondering why it takes so long for you to adjust. You know what I'm saying? Like, maybe you walk into a game thinking that you were going to be able to do something to a team, and there's a little bit of stubbornness that takes in order for you to be able to, one, realize, get over the fact that you've been outcoached, two, make an actual change, and three, execute that change, right? But a lot of that kind of gets in the way when you come into games like with expectations, right? And coming into the games and expectations is making quotes like that before the game, where it's like, who gives a fuck if they're tough? They're the number one defense in the league. This is the NFL. We on the road. We're supposed to win, period. Right? Start fights before the game. What are we doing?
Yeah.
What do we do? Why? That doesn't even
Yeah.
look good. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Then, I mean, a little bit of that still lingering around with Debo going back and forth with CJ Gardner Johnson all over. It's just like, if this is what we have to deal with for the whole season, it's going to be hard to focus on winning a Super Bowl.
Yep. I agree. 12 play says Sam Darnold will be the starter after he throws deep and wins. Rome Gut Level says Walsh and Harbaugh would shut that down. Don't talk about it, be about it. Once you win the chip, you can yap. Feel like Kyle kind of sets the tone. Yeah, that's the thing. I feel like Kyle, his number one characteristic. I mean, like Mike McDaniel has it too. That overwhelming confidence, bordering on, not even say border, is arrogance.
Obnoxious.
Straight up obnoxious arrogance. I mean, I feel like McDaniel's kind of set, like, does it in jest. You know, he's smaller
He
and he
tries
wears
to
the
be
glasses.
cute with it.
He's kind of cute with it. Like, he's not taking himself totally seriously. Kyle takes himself totally seriously.
Very seriously. Yeah.
Very seriously. And he's the best. And this is the best team. And they don't want to, like, apologize for it. And I think they kind of get ahead of themselves. Like, they feel like they've proven things or made statements before it's all said and done. And maybe it's because Kyle knows his pattern of what he does in the most pressurized moments, and he's afraid of what's going to happen next and wants to sort of give himself the validation before he gets there. I don't know, but it's a bad habit.
I mean, I worked security for a while. Like, you never get worried about the guys who's talking tough, because what they really doing is they talking themselves up. They're trying to get into it because they know they scared. They know they're afraid of the situation. So you got to show up with your chest poked out and try to start a fight before the game and try to rattle their cage, because the truth of the matter is that I feel like the Niners saw all these teams coming, but man, we watch film just like they do. They walked into Cleveland like, man, we got to kind of show the part because we seen the film and these boys ain't ready to play around with us. The Browns even walked out. The Browns walked out and did the Niners boombox entrance like before the game. Like, they were letting you know, like, we're here for business. We're not playing with y'all. And honestly, that's what the Niners are going to have to understand, is that there ain't going to be a lot of teams talking to y'all no more. They're going to be trying to punch y'all in the mouth, because that's your mantra. You say that you're the bully. So now everybody is coming with the most physical shot they got. That's just what it is.
Yep. All right, let's check out the sponsor, BetUS. If you want to go to BetUS, use the link in the description, place a wager, and you'll get 125% wager sign up bonus on your first deposit. So let's look at what the Niners action is. -7 on the road. -7 on the road against the Vikings. That was a tough one last week. I mean, do you think the Niners are going to bounce back and win by more than a touchdown this week?
Yes, for sure.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah, they're going to win more.
You don't think Kirk Cousins is going to keep it close?
Well, Kirk Cousins doesn't have Justin Jefferson either.
That's true.
And it's Kirk Cousins, and it's a primetime game, and Kirk Cousins, like, he lives to fail on primetime.
He really does. Over under is 44. So what? They're expecting this game to be like 24-17.
I'm taking the over.
Like that. Taking the over on that.
Yeah,
I think Kyle. I feel like the Niners are going to light them up. They're going to score 30 plus, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's in a dome. It's under controlled circumstances. And football is still entertainment. It's still theater. They're going to know that they got to show shock and awe. If they win this game and barely win, there's still going to be people chirping like, are there 9? I don't know. So it's like they're going to try to win this one like with style points. They're going to want to really show and prove. I'm taking the over on this one.
Taking the over. I like it. Mm-hmm. And the Niners to cover. Let's see if this line moves throughout the week, because we don't really know if Christian McCaffrey, Debo going to play. I mean, this line might move back to the Vikings. So anyway, thank you very much, BetUS. Let's get back to our show. Mm-hmm. Let's say, well, Christian McCaffrey's hurt. Mm-hmm. If he misses, how do you want to do this? Do you want to redistribute touches on offense without Christian McCaffrey in the fold at all, or with a compromised Christian?
Redistribute, man. We got to figure out a better way how to use him. He's not going to be able to keep up all of the touches that we give him week in and week out. And I feel like that's on Kyle. Like, if you could find a way to use him, you could find a way to use him better. And really, if you have all of these weapons, and we know that Christian is kind of, in effect, wearing down. You know what? Forget everything that I'm talking about. There's something that we talked about earlier, and I wanted to bring this up. When we drafted Christian McCaffrey, not drafted, but traded for him, right? When we traded for Christian McCaffrey, there was nothing that anybody had a problem with but one thing: his injury history. Yeah, his injury history. Everybody was talking about, as well as I was like, man, if we could just keep him healthy, he's going to be phenomenal. And the number one caveat for him coming over to the Niners was what? In unison, everybody. Well, he's not going to be used like he was in Carolina, because he's going to be playing with so many weapons, and Kyle's going to be able to know how to use them better. He's not going to get ran into the ground when he comes to the Niners because of how many weapons, and he's not going to be playing on the same caliber of offense. And we're into week 6, and look where we are. We're using them way too much. And Kyle is not being artful. He's not being creative. And in a lot of different instances, Christian is being used at the same clip that he was being used in Carolina.
Where he was the whole team.
He was the whole team in Carolina. And he's coming over here, and he's supposedly supposed to be playing with Brock Purdy, George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk, Trent Williams, who else? Deebo Samuel. But he's found his way to the top of the heap of all of them. He's getting used more than all of them, and he is the leader of our offense. So I don't. And then again, for years, this offense can put anybody in, plug and play running back. This was the offense that's known to take any type of running back and make him a superstar. No, it's not. Bobby Turner killed that myth over the summer. Multiple coaches who have talked about this offense have all killed that narrative. It is not any type of running back can run this offense. It's a special type of running back that you need to run this offense. And Christian is a curated back that Kyle lucked up on. Go.
What's interesting about the Christian McCaffrey usage, last year, he averaged, let me see, 14.4 carries per game. Okay. Mm-hmm. That was 14.2 on Carolina, 14.5 on the Niners. That's almost like conservative. I'd be cool with 15.5, maybe 16. But that's how they used him last year. 14.5 carries per game on the Niners and 4.5 receptions. Like, that's perfect to me. He should be right there. 15 carries, 5 catches, 20 touches, boom. That's perfect. This year, he's averaging 18.5 carries per game.
He's overusing them.
And only 3.8 receptions per game. Like, stop handing him the ball and throw more to him. 15 carries, 5 catches. That should be the split. I don't know why they're leaning way more in him as a running back than as a weapon.
Yeah. I honestly, I feel like we keep moving the goalpost on calling Kyle a genius, but we forget the criteria that we set in the first
Mhm.
place, right? We set the criteria for him being an effective play caller with an efficient offense that you could plug and play and put anybody into. We found out that that, in fact, is not true. You can't plug and play with this offense. You need specific players to do specific roles in this offense, right? Then we thought, oh, well, we could just put any quarterback in there and then the offense will work. False. That's cap. You need to put somebody in there that can handle Kyle's offense on top of being able to lead the team off script to do more things. We found that out with Jimmy. We found that out with not even being able to matriculate the offense with Trey. Now we're finding that out with Brock, right? So then we get Christian. Christian is supposed to come over here and everybody is supposed to be happy because he's supposed to be an addition to
Mhm.
what we're doing. He's supposed to be able to put us over the top. Man, we done reshuffled the whole shit and he's leading the whole thing now. He came here to help with the group project and now he's leading it. And now we're getting to the point where we've all forgot about that narrative and we're clinging to the fact of if we could just keep Christian, if Christian goes down, it's all over for us. Whoa, that wasn't the narrative when we first got him here. The narrative was that not that Kyle was going to be able to keep him healthy because he was in addition to what we already had. That, in fact, is not true. He's brute force. And you know what? Kyle knew that he was going to use him that way because he barely had a camp. He wasn't playing him at all during camp or preseason. He knew how he was going to use this kid. And now that he's coming up with oblique and rib injuries in week 6, we can't look at anybody but Kyle. There's reports saying that Christian doesn't like to come out the game. Hello. Hello. You need to come out the game with your history.
Yeah.
Like, what are you talking about? You don't
Yeah.
like to come out the game. Like, what? I
No
feel
one
like
does.
we're on different types of time, man.
Agreed.
Fans are understanding that we're trying to win a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
The team is understanding that they just want to keep everybody happy. I don't understand it. And Christian being hurt is on Kyle. It's on Kyle. He had an injury history before he got here. He's using them more by the numbers. It's factual than he was used in Carolina. And he's playing on a much more talented team. Make that make sense.
Mhm. Detail Media says makes classic moments though, i.e. T.O. on the star. Ethan M says, what's a bigger concern this season, Kyle or Brock? Kyle.
Kyle.
Kyle. Rome Gut Level says, what do you think of Jed as an owner or Lynch? Jed as an owner, he's okay. There's worse ones. And I think Lynch is a pretty good executive, I'd have to say. So.
Yeah.
Last topic. Is Steve Wilkes slow to adjust during games? Couldn't really stop this Browns run game. You know, like he had a tough time against the Rams, deep into it. What do you think? He had a tough
Yeah.
time against the Cardinals.
Okay. So it's true. I don't like to admit this, but it is true. It's taking too long to adjust. I mean, you look at it in the Rams game. We were playing off man. It took it to the second half until we started playing tighter coverage. When we were getting ran all over in Arizona, it took us to the second half for us to start choking up on the run and understanding that we needed to bring down safeties in the box. Conversely, in this game, we were getting ran all over without Dre Greenlaw. I want to be fair, without Dre Greenlaw, but we kind of had a bend but don't break mentality near the end of the game. And you know, these are the woes of a new coach. He is a new defensive coordinator learning a new defense. That is something that we don't give credit for either. It's not as if he's not like it's the only reason why I bring that up is that it's not like Salah going to D'Amico, right? Coach Salah going to Coach Ryan's was more of a lateral move because they both ran the same defense. Damn, they run the same defense together. Coach Wilkes actually had to learn this defense, right? And to impact his own subject matter expertise on top of the secondary to bring him in. So it is a labor of love. But are we going to be able to wait a whole half until we need to make a defensive adjustment like we're doing now? It seems to take a half before we start seeing adjustments and the defense starts bowing up on things that we're being attacked on offensively. But as the season moves on, can we wait on that? Right by the time we make an adjustment in the second half, is the game over? Is it too late? we know that the level of scrutiny on winning games, especially in the playoffs, is razor thin. We lost the NFC Championship game in the first quarter, the first couple of series. The game was over, right?
Mhm.
Off of and not even just off of Brock getting an injury, but there was the throws that I mean the runs that led up to Brock getting the injury. We should have still kept running the ball. That was a mistake. Then we had the missed challenge with Devontae over up top. That was a mistake. Then we had Brock getting hurt. That was a mistake on him, the drops. So we're talking about the first the first couple of series in the game, and just those blunders into the game for us. You don't want to see that on the defensive side of the ball. So the adjustments that are being made on defense, they are timely, but how much are they timely how timely will they be as the season moves on? It may be too late in certain instances.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's like he's in the booth. He's in the booth too. He should be able to make these adjustments quickly. He should be able to see it, communicate it, and get it done. But it's like, I don't know. Maybe he has to wait to talk to his position coaches at halftime or what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it's tough to say because he's not giving up many points, but he
Mm-hmm.
hasn't really faced a great offense yet. The best offense
Mm-hmm.
he faced was the Cowboys. Like, you're gonna have to face. Like, what are you gonna do? How are you gonna do when you face the Kansas City Chiefs in the Super Bowl, Steve? Are you gonna be
Mm-hmm.
ready for that? I'm not sure. I'm not sure yet. We'll see.
Mm-hmm. So I mean, these are just things that we just want to be able to point out as the season moves on. I'm excited to see what we do against Minnesota. It should be a bounce back game. Uh, we're going to be looking for all things told. I want to see who comes back and who doesn't. I mean, I want to see what our team looks like. Is Trent, CMC, and Debo coming back fully healthy? If not,
Mhm.
even if CMC does come back healthy, are we going to be? I'd like to see a noticing the change up of how we use the backs. I want to see more JP Mason. I mean,
Yeah.
TDP needs them to start making a couple of appearances. So, I mean, defensively in the run game, we look really bad, and
Mhm.
you got to see if Dre's going to play. Without Dre
Yeah.
Greenlaw, our run defense looks noticeably different.
It does. And I want to say another one. Without Samson Ebukam got no love because he wasn't really a pass rusher, but D'Amico would say it a lot. He's our best edge setter. He's our best edge setter, meaning better than Bosa.
Mm-hmm.
And he is. He's really good at that. And now you got Cleveland Farrell and Drake Jackson and Randy Gregory, and you could see it. There was these like they call them
Bad edge.
crack toss
Mm-hmm.
runs. So a lot of times the DN busts up field and he gets like pushed inside and they run around him. They did it to Drake Jackson. They did it to Nick Bosa. They
Mm-hmm.
kept doing it to the Niners. That's a weakness that Steve Wilkes has to adjust to right now, setting the edge, because that's what the
Yeah.
wide nine's all about. You're supposed to funnel it inside.
Yeah. I mean, I've never seen our defense I haven't seen our defense get ran on that like that in a long time. They methodically ran up and down the field on us, right? And these guys they didn't have anything special in the backfield, right? And offensive line wise, they weren't even fully healthy. They were missing their best offensive lineman. So it is a concern, but I said this in the beginning of the season. I made my prediction. I'm not going to change it because that's just what it is. I had us going 9-8. And the number one reason why I had us going 9-8 is because I was concerned about us running the ball and stopping the run, right? And I'm gonna
Yeah.
tell you, we could talk about man defense, we could talk about Christian McCaffrey being out, or Debo or Trent even being injured. That's cool, or even Dre being out. But we lost that game to a Browns team who was far less talented than us because we could not run the ball or stop the run, and we lost.
Yeah.
So,
And what they're all about is like limiting explosive passes, because last year under D'Amico, great defense, they did give up some big long throws. And so far, Steve Wilkes, defensive back guy, unlike D'Amico, who was a linebacker. He's doing a good job
mhm,
of that, but I feel like he's sort of sacrificed or compromising other parts of the defense to be sort of conservative on the back end. And I
yeah,
think he's going to have to find a better balance. He's been a little too conservative here.
yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, it is. It's been a little bit too conservative. I agree.
Mhm.
But right now, uh, I'm pleased with what we're doing I'm pleased at what we're doing in the run game. But uh, there's going to be teams that are really going to challenge us. I saw some things on film, especially with our linebacking core. I love how we get sideline to sideline, but there's a difference between Dre and Fred. They are not the
Yeah.
same linebackers. They're not.
No.
And they're both good, but they're just not the same guys. And there are going to be teams in this league where it's a matchup league. I'm not picking on him, but when Ambry Thomas gets on the field, he gets singled out.
That's
They
what. As you should.
single. They ask.
Sorry. It's the
Thank you,
NFL.
Grant.
It's the NFL. Sorry.
Thank you. As
Can't let
he
him off the hook.
should. As he should. So
Yeah.
I'm telling you, if teams start realizing, man, Dre Greenlaw is really the only downhill defender that they have. Like, we can really run at these guys. Like, a lot of these guys make business decisions in the hole. Like, they gang tackle, but ain't nobody trying to see no one-on-one smoke. Like, we ain't got no. Jimmy Ward was a player for us. I think people don't understand just how much Jimmy Ward was a guy and setting that edge and being a real. I'm gonna tell you this right now. DBs don't want to tackle and they don't want to stick their nose in the run game. They don't want to do it. All right. And when you have DBs who can, that makes you an exponentially more dangerous offense. I mean, dangerous defense. The Browns, they had DBs that wanted to tackle. And that's how you get at our offense. You got to have the small guys that want to mix it up just like the big guys.
Agree. Rome gut level trade deadline coming. Who do you guys want us to get? How about Patrick Mahomes? I don't know.
No, I mean, the tackle out of Arizona, Beacham. I would take him because Trent went down, and immediately Trent said that he forced himself through an injury because he didn't want Jalen to go through.
Jalen Moore.
Yeah, he didn't want to put Jalen Moore through that. I mean, that right there should let you know the level of you have to play that's happening on this team, where guys are starting to feel like, I know there's nothing behind me. I have to play.
Yep. Good question, Rome gut level. I got to get down to Santa Clara. It's going to be a long day. It's their Thursday where you come home late. It's Friday. Brock Purdy talk in the afternoon, late afternoon. We'll see what happens. Chris Forrester, he's my favorite. Steve Wilkes, he's great too. Chris Forrester just talks a lot. He teaches you. He teaches the media. Or I think Steve Wilkes is a little bit like, it's not my job to teach you, and it's not. And I respect that, Steve. My job to do my homework. So thank you very much, Coach. Great show, and thank you everyone for watching. If you haven't subscribed to the Coach's YouTube channel, please do so. The link is in the description. Like and subscribe. Hold on. It's time to discuss signing
Destroying. You know who that is?
Debo?
No. Who? Destroying is the punter. He's a punter / content creator. He does like these one-off like 7-on-7 tournaments now. I know who Destroying is. That's funny.
Oh. See you guys. I'll see you from Santa Clara.
Yeah, man.
Hold on. We're still live.